Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all's well. Keep up the beautiful work. Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach. Today is Thursday, Parashat Shemini. We get thrown off from the days around here, the holiday, the 3 days eating, the 6 days eating, and we're still having relapses from trying to figure out which day it is. But it's Yom Hamishi, Parashat Shemini, and we have Rosh Chodesh coming up after Shabbat, Monday and Tuesday, Bezrat Hashem. Like we said, all the EGs, the Egyptians, come out of the closet on the woodwork on Monday, Tuesday, Rosh Chodesh, because their custom is to take haircuts, no problem, and to shave. So the rule is if you have Malachiyah Friday night, then you're allowed to take a haircut and shave on Rosh Chodesh. If not, then you have to ask your local rabbi for a heter. Now, there's a concept in general of taking haircuts and shaving on Rosh Chodesh itself. Does someone have to be Hoshesh for the tzava'ah of Rabbi Yehuda HaChasid? Hawadiah allowed people, and he himself did it. We should all live and be well. When his wife was alive and she saw that the barber came to the house Rosh Chodesh, she said, out you go. She was from Syria. She was very, as they say, Segula style, mystical, and therefore she didn't let it. But the rabbi himself holds that we don't have to be Hoshesh of taking haircuts and shaving on Rosh Chodesh. Now, as we mentioned the other day, shaving is easier than a haircut, even though the song says shave and haircut. However, there's a difference between the two. Why is there a difference between the two? Because Jewish people never shaved many years ago. At the time of this custom, at the time when it all became, when the rabbi said the custom is not to do these things, people were not shaving. And we only shave, as the years went on, a little more modern. Now it became the style to grow a beard, then not again. If you like ZZ Top, then you have a beard. Long story short, when the custom evolved, so the people never shaved. It wasn't a thing to shave. Jewish people always left their beards because of the problem of using a razor and the similar. And since that, the decree, the custom never fell on shaving as much as it did a haircut, because the haircuts was something that they all did, so they didn't take haircuts, and then the minhag became to fruition. However, when it came to the shaving, like we said, the shaving wasn't something that someone always did. The people didn't do it, therefore it's a little more lenient. Rabino Grande tells us we don't like to shave, but if someone has to, then let him shave on Rosh Chodesh, as mentioned, Monday and Tuesday, Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Iyar stands for Ani Hashem Rofecha. Hashem should heal everyone and Am Yisrael Bezrat Hashem. Anyway, if someone really, if that's not sufficient, then a person, if he has to at least wait till Friday to shave, because at least you're doing it lichvod Shabbat Kodesh, and this way you kill two birds with one stone. This is not halakha l'maaseh. Ask your local rabbi, but I do know that there are rabbis that allow when a boy has to go out on a date with a girl, shidduch style, so the rabbis allow him to shave, because if he looks all scruffy, then she's going to say, how you doing? So therefore, there are rabbis that allow it. For any specific halakha questions, ask your local rabbi. But we also know when it comes to music, we spoke about it, the rabbi tells us to be strict. He says to be mahmir in these days, to listen to music. Even recorded music, the rabbi tells us to be strict. Now, all year long, believe it or not, our rabbis tell us it's not so simple to listen to music. Hamad writes, for those who are lenient all year long to listen to music, then in these days, they should be strict. The Reed and Havadia also says to be strict even with Ashkenaz music, he says. But anyway, later on, of course, he listened to all kinds of music. Well, the second he stopped hazaning BTW, he stopped listening to Arabic music. People think, yeah, Hawadiya listened to Arabic music, and they think he sat there with a hookah listening to Kalthum or something. Hawadiya never wasted a moment's time from learning Torah. If he took a nap, he would listen to music sometimes when he napped, but not to listen to mazag, to just heke relax. He listened to music because he wanted to listen on the scales of the makam, of all kinds of mahwals, and he would do it himself in hazanut. We know there's something called a makam. The average person knows about seven. The experts know more. There were two people in the world that I know of, and knew over 100 makams. One was Chacham El Nadav Alav Shalom, and one was Rabino Grande Grande. Havadian knew everything, and he knew over 100 makams, and that's not bad, right? Like we said, if the average person knows seven, and the experts, let's say, know 20, he knew 100. He knew everything. Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. While we're on that subject, we know it's the time of the Omer, where we have 7 times 7 because of the seven, what we call sefirot. They say the seven main makams are in contrast to the seven sefirot, believe it or not. In the Beit HaMikdash, what do you think they're playing music for in the Beit HaMikdash? Just to heke, to jam. They even play music on Shabbat in the Beit HaMikdash. There are certain gates in heaven that only open up with music and with singing. Why are we singing in Shul? Nishmat Kohai, Misraim Gatanu, Raubanim, etc. Naktishach, because like we said, the singing is a very deep concept. And they say after the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, all the gates in heaven were locked except for the gate of tears. We should only have tears of joy, please Hashem. But when someone prays from their heart with tears, the gates are open and their tefillah goes up. Rav Nachman from Breslov tells us that song doesn't need to open the gates, it busts them open. That's how powerful singing is. Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. So they even played, of course, do not try this at home. There's no playing music on Shabbat. The rabbis came along and made a decree. But when it came to all rabbinic decrees, they did not follow it in the Beit HaMikdash. How come? Because when a person does something, they can make a mistake. That's why the rabbis made fences. But when it came to the Beit HaMikdash, you're in the house of God. The awe, and the trepidation, and the aura, it keeps a person on their toes. You sometimes tell a kid in school, a kid acting like a wife, I said, Baba, if your father was in the room, I don't think you would act like that. And of course they wouldn't. So the same thing over here in the house of Hashem, no one's going to come along and make a mistake. So music is a very deep thing, and it's a beautiful thing. But in the days of the Omer, inshallah, this year there won't be 3 weeks. Mashiach will come. There's no Sha'bob, there's no Shavua Shahalbo, etc. Please, we really could use the Mashiach, and I believe it's on the way. Let Iran mess with Trump, and then Bezat Hashem, that'll be Gog and Magog, and we'll make it happen. No one knows what's going to happen, but one thing we know, that he could come any day, and we hope he even comes today, Bezrat Hashem. So the rabbi tells us that all year long, since we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, people are strict with even listening to recorded music. However, the rabbi says there are leniencies to listen to recorded music. To listen to live music for no reason without a mitzvah involved, it's not a simple item to do. We do them by weddings because it's a mitzvah. We do them by bar mitzvahs. We have live music. However, when it comes to live music, especially with wine, once the Beit HaMikdash unfortunately was destroyed, you're not allowed to. There are weddings in Israel that they only have drums, believe it or not, playing because they can't bring themselves to have a regular musical instrument in Yerushalayim, the city that we're praying for so many times a day that it should be rebuilt, right? And therefore, it tells us in Tehillim, Az Yimaleh Sechok Pinu, when Mashiach comes, Then everybody will be full of happiness and dancing and music, and we hope it will be soon. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. So now we don't listen to recorded music nowadays. However, the rabbis do tell us, ask your local rabbi for specifics, but first of all, for exercise, you're allowed to. For background music, you're allowed to. A person doesn't have to go to a shop right or something, and there's background music and stick cotton in your ears. Oy vey, I can't listen to music. Of course, background music's allowed. And there are some say that if a person gets fidgety and edgy and they need it for their sanity purposes, then believe it or not, there are rabbis that allow that today as well. They look at it halachically, like believe it or not, a choleh in a way, she'em bo sakana. So therefore, they do allow it. But anyway, we did mention the other day, achnasat sefer Torah in these days with music is allowed. And now it's a beautiful time to do it because we got the weather's getting nice. Thank you, Hashem. And we like to do it before Shavuot, and people like to do it before they go away for the summer. And there's not that many Sundays left, so it's a nice time to do it. And you can do it with live music and a bar mitzvah on the actual day as well with live music. Rabbi brings down a Hanukkah Habayit is allowed to be made in these days, but of course without music, we don't even put music in a Hanukkah Bayit. They could have a meeting of the family also without music and shelemah brooks for everybody. And as we mentioned the other day, these things are reminders to tell us that what happened to the students of Rabbi Akiva. And when we remember what happened to the students of Rabbi Akiva, it reminds us of why what happened, and it makes us fix ourselves up before getting the Torah on Shavuot. That's why it's the custom to learn Pirkei Avot in these days. In Hamadya's house, for two reasons they did it. They would read a perek of Pirkei Avot every single day. Hamadya would usually read it and then give some explanation. And that's how the book Anaf Etz Avot came to be. Recommended. Everyone should buy that book. They even have it in English now. Believe it or not, it's Hamadya's book on Pirkei Avot. It's the most magnificent book. When the rabbi, thank you Hashem, he gave me a signed copy when it came out a bunch of years ago. I was not able to put it down, believe it or not. Once you start reading it, you cannot put it down. You hear Hamadya's voice reading to you as you're reading the book Yishtabach Shemo. So he used to do it for two reasons. Number one, even though we said that if you're in a synagogue and they finished Arbit before 3 stars come out, after sunset, we said you're allowed to count the Omer with the Minyan in the twilight zone. But everybody would agree that it's better to do it after 3 stars come out, what we call Tzeta Kohavim, 20 minutes after sunset. So the rabbi used to read the Pirkei Avot this way to stall. But also, we're supposed to read Pirkei Avot in these days. Like we said, if the whole purpose of these days is to work on ourselves, to be able to get to a higher level before we receive the Torah on Shavuot, and we keep giving the same analogy, but it's worthwhile of repeating that in a marathon, everyone starts off running. But the people who make it to the finish line, those are the ones who worked hard. Everybody joins the Am Yisrael for the holiday of Pesach. But the question is, who makes it to Shavuot? Some people don't even realize what Shavuot is. They think it's just days of school and having calzones and yalla, going to jumping in the pool. Obviously not. It's the entire world was just created for that day. Imagine every single thing in the world was created for the day of Shavuot, and it continues to the world to continue, all because of the Torah that's being learned in the world. Yom HaShishi, the 6th day of creation, everything in the Shamayim and Aretz is all because of Yom HaShishi, Yishtabach Shemo La'ad. Can someone make a Shahianu in these days? So the answer is nopety nope. In the old days, the rabbi said it depends. If it's a fruit, then yes, Shahianu. If it's a suit or a nice pretty dress or a nice garment, then no. So, however, nowadays we know once all the stores came to be, there's no more Shahianu on fruits. You could get nectarines all year long. You could get your watermelon, your batich. You could have it all year long as well. You could have a dragon fruit, go to the Chinese store all year long, the star fruit. So since you could get everything all year long and it's available in the stores, there's no more shahiano, as we mentioned many times, because Tu B'Shvat this comes into a discussion because we don't make shahiano and people like to make shahiano on Tu B'Shvat. So back to our subject, the rabbi says allows it in the days of the Omer. Had there been a shahiano before Avenue U was built, there was a shahiano on new fruits. However, nowadays, like we said, there's none. So the reason why in the old days the rabbi allowed you to make shahiyan on a fruit is because then the season's going to be over, a person can miss it, etc., and therefore he allowed it. But when it comes to a new suit, if you leave the suit in your closet, nothing's going to happen to it. A person won't eat that many jelly donuts, and it won't fit him anymore. And therefore, the rabbi says no shahiyan on clothing. However, if someone really, really wants to wear a new suit, for whatever reason it is, you could put it on Shabbat and make a shahiyano on Shabbat because on Shabbat there's no signs of mourning. We should never have any mourning, only to not even to commemorate the students of Rabbi Akiva, like we said, because we'll see them with the Tahiyat Hametim Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. We'll stop here for today. I hope everyone has the greatest day. Keep up the good work. Good things always, Be'ezrat Hashem. Besorot Tovot, Yeshuot V'Nehamot. All the best. Take care.